Hi, my name's Anushka and you're watching My Combat Channel News. I'm joined by Big John McCarthy, the very first, the original UFC referee. So thank you so much for joining me and all of us here at My Combat Channel.
Thank you for having me.
So how long have you been a referee?
I've been a referee now for about 18 years. It's since about the beginning of the sport, and so I've been around for a while.
And you used to be a cop, didn't you?
I did. I was on LAPD for about 22 and a half years, almost 23.
And how did the other officers feel and the department feel about you being involved in a sport that was actually illegal?
You know, when you say illegal, the sport wasn't illegal. It was,
okay.
You know, there's a whole lot of things, and people say that there was places where, you know, they tried to make it illegal. There was places that ended up, actually New York made it illegal in their state. But, you know, the actual police officers that I worked with, they loved the sport. Most police officers around the country loved MMA, and the department really never gave me a problem for anything I did. It was, I got a work permit to be a referee, and they were okay with it, and the sport has proven itself to be a very good sport by where it's at now.
So how did you come to be involved in MMA?
I actually got my start because of the very first fight. I was friends with Rorion Gracie. I was a student of his and trained with him and his brothers. And then when the sport was actually being born, they came out with this idea, and they started calling it War of the Worlds. And eventually it was that was changed by Semaphore Entertainment Group into the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And I was at the very first one as a sparring partner for Royce. And because of the very first fight that took place, which was between Gerard Gordeau and Taylor Tooley, I was given an opportunity to be the referee, and that's how it started for me. You know what, Rorion is probably one of the actual, one of the best actual teachers as far as, especially jiu-jitsu, but the way he teaches and his ability to communicate with people is what really struck me when I first met him. And Rorion has been a phenomenal proponent of jiu-jitsu here in North America. And I will tell you that, you know, there's not only myself, but I can name multitudes of people that the jiu-jitsu that he brought, or his family brought, you know, to North America changed my life and changed their lives for, you know, I've lived a life that I never would have had if it wasn't for jiu-jitsu. So I owe Rorion a lot, and I think he's a great guy.
So in the beginning, MMA didn't really have set rules.
No, in the beginning, if you look, the very first UFC actually started off, there was only 3 true rules or fouls, and that was no eye gouging, no biting, and no groin strikes.
Right, those are the rules in my house too.
And the other thing was that it was 5-minute rounds and it was unlimited rounds. Well, after the first one, they had some people complain about, oh, if I could have done this with a knee here, a groin strike here, and they said, you know what, no problem. We're going to say there's no rounds, just fight until the end, and the only rules are no biting and no eye gouging. And so that was really how it started, and that was a great concept, but it really doesn't work in keeping everybody safe at times and the way things were done. And from that show, you know, things started changing with every show, and the rules really changed from one show to another until they, you know, had a set, you know, standard, and then the unified rules came in from MMA, and MMA has proven itself to be a very competitive but safe sport.
And how have you seen MMA and the UFC change over the years? Because I mean, now it's, you know, it's so popular now that it really is something that is accessible to everybody, but it's come a long way. So what are the changes you've noticed? Well,
the UFC started off as it was more of a spectacle. It was an infomercial. It was an infomercial for Rorion Gracie and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu at the time. Rorion has spent a lot of time trying to get people to understand that his form of martial arts, Jiu-Jitsu, was very good and very effective at controlling someone and being able to take on people that were bigger, stronger, you know, had technical skills, but you could take them out of their element and put them in a position where they couldn't deal with what you were doing. And he spent a lot of time trying to get people to look at it. But here in the United States, the big thing at the time was fancy spinning back fist and roundhouse kicks and all these fancy things. And he wanted to prove, hey, you know what, you guys are looking at the wrong thing. And that's how the real idea for the UFC came up. And it was an infomercial to sell Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and it worked for him. I think, you know, when I was a student in the beginning, he probably had 75 to 100 students. The day after the UFC, he had 500 students, and the week after that, he had 1,000 students, which just went to show people were watching, they saw, and it did exactly what he wanted it to do. Now, it's a sport. It's not about one style. Every competitor within the sport does the same thing. They have to know jiu-jitsu, they have to have wrestling, they have to have the stand-up skills of a boxer and a Muay Thai fighter, and those. If you don't have one of those elements, it's like a tripod that's going to fall over because you don't have one of the three elements. You're going to be exposed and you're going to lose. So it's a true sport now with phenomenal athletes doing phenomenal things.
Yeah. And what changed, do you think, when the Athletic Commission took over? What changed?
You know, a lot of people look at the athletic commissions and what they've done. The best part with athletic commissions is it brings a standard of, you know, what the fighters expect. The standards for medicals are the same. You know, usually from one good state to another state. The athletic commissions are the reason behind that. You know, there are fighters that'll go and fight for people, and if there was no athletic commission, they don't get paid.
Right.
You know, there's some crooked promoters and things out there, and because of the athletic commissions, the fighters are going to get paid. The athletic commissions are now responsible for the judges, the referees, all the officials, the inspectors, and everything. So they bring a legitimacy to the sport, and they bring a level of confidence that people know that it's going to be upright, and everyone's getting paid, all the good things that go along with it.
So what do you think about Dana White?
What do I think about Dana White? He's a phenomenal promoter, incredible. Yeah. He's done a huge amount of work to get the sport where it's at, and he promotes the UFC and the sport of MMA better than any promoter there's been, no matter what. You look at Don King or Bob Arum in boxing and stuff. Dana White's the best promoter in the world.
Wow. That's a pretty big tribute to him.
Well, it's a big statement, and he deserves it because he absolutely has dominated the combative sport since he's really come into it. He had a rough patch in the beginning. It's anyone getting started in something, but once he got his feet really on solid ground and he had something behind him, he has been remarkable in what he's done for the sport.
So now there seems to be a lot of amateur fights coming up, and now that it's legal and everything, that's giving young people opportunities to get involved in the sport. What do you have to say about that? Well,
one of the problems with the sport for a long time was there was no amateur, and if you were going to fight, you had to become a professional, because amateur was really what we called smokers. There was fights going on in gyms. Guys would put little tiny promotions and have everyone come that were illegal, and it's the amateur programs that are now out there, especially in the United States. You've got California's got the CAMO organization. You've got amateur fights going on in Nevada, in Ohio, in New Jersey. A lot of these states are now running amateur programs, which is giving people, the rule set is different. And it's helping guys as far as giving them the ability to get in, because what people don't understand is a guy can be great in the gym, or a girl could be great in the gym, and they can do all these different kinds of combinations and techniques and transitions. But when you put them under the bright lights and have a lot of people watching them, all of a sudden, it becomes a very hard element to deal with, and you've got to get your emotions in check, and you've got to be able to deal with that. And the amateur program allows fighters to step into that, not have to worry, truthfully, in the end. If you win, great. If you lose, it's okay. It's not going to count against you. No one's going to really look at it in any way. And so it gives them that experience. It gives them the ability to try things out, to see how things are going to work for them, and see if they like it. And see if this is something that they want to do. Because a lot of people think that, I want to fight, and then they get in there and say, I don't ever want to do that again. And the amateur programs are doing a great job in helping guys get through that opening stage of their career, of getting all the nerves out, understanding how to handle adrenaline flush and all that. That's what the amateurs are doing, and it's been great for the sport.
Declaring the winner by unanimous decision, Penny Kenfro, Wichon Rapper Still, the UFC featherweight champion of the world.
So from this point, what are your plans for the future? You've achieved so much already.
You know, my plans for the future are pretty simple. I'm going to stick with MMA. You figure out in life what's important. And you know, everyone's got their ambitions and their goals, and you know, some of them, you know, for people that's to make, you know, so much money and be rich or that like that. And that's great, and I have no problem with that, but I've learned, you know what, having a lot of money is not really what's going to make my life complete. Being happy with what I do. If you go to work and you love your work, then life is great. And I've learned that, you know what, I am passionate about MMA. I love the sport. I love the people involved with the sport. And just being able to be a part of it is what makes me happy. And so I will stick with what I'm doing because that's what my life is about. That's where my passion is, and that's where I want to be.
My name's Anushka.
And I'm Big John McCarthy, and you're watching My Combat Channel News.